From Wall Street to Main Street to help small business owners have the same capital as corporate America and give them the same resources as a larger company. We cover business funding, business credit, scaling, business consulting, and much more. Check out the website at shieldadvisorygroup.com. Welcome to the show, The Liquid Lunch Project.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Liquid Lunch Project. I am Matthew R. Meehan alongside my partner, the Professor Luigi Rosabianca. What's on tap today, Lou?
Matt, some of us small business owners, we just can't get enough. Some of us become serial entrepreneurs. And today on the podcast, we have Brandon Neely, serial entrepreneur. And the genesis is quite unique. He started out in a coffee shop in South Chicago with ethically sourced beans. So kudos to him. But he then leverages this into getting Profit First certified. And now he's advising small businesses on underlying finances. So great oaks from humble acorns do grow. Brandon, welcome to the podcast. Tell us. I learned because of you. I did a little bit of research prior to the podcast. I didn't know what Profit First was. Can you please share with the audience what Profit First is?
Yeah. Well, Lou, Matt, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here. So what I love about Profit First is being a business owner, talking to a lot of business owners. I found that a lot of business owners are not profitable or not paying themselves. They say, oh yeah, well, it's going to happen one day. I'll pay myself one day. And that was us in the coffee shop. When I first started the coffee shop, we didn't have a rich relative that helped us get going. Actually, when we started, my wife was selling beans, subscription style, in a suitcase. So she was literally a drug dealer with a suitcase on the L, passing out things because I don't know if you know this, coffee is a drug. It was on the Food and Drug Administration for being banned. Anyway, so Profit First for us was, okay, how do we have a system that makes sure that we are taking care of us? Our business name was called Overflow, but yet we were not taking care of ourselves. Often we were last to get paid. Everybody else was. Cisco, US Foods, all those other people, banks, everybody. I mean, I swear that Mr. Taxman and Mr. JP Morgan had their hands in my pocket at the coffee shop, and I never saw them at work ever because of processing fees and the tax bill. And I was like, all right, something's got to give. We learned about the Profit First system, and that's what also ultimately led us to say, we need to make a change. We need to sell this and make a pivot. And that's why we pivoted out.
So kind of share with the audience what the fundamentals are of Profit First. This way, maybe they can apply it to their businesses.
Yeah. So think about it this way. When you go to Thanksgiving dinner, you get a giant plate, a platter, right? And you eat everything. And then you're full, and then you're like want to crash because you've ate too much tryptophan and turkey, right? What Profit First does is say, okay, let's make smaller plates so we don't overeat. Let's make sure that we put the pieces in place that we aren't saying, oh, I forgot that I owe taxes. How crazy of me. And now we're back on taxes because we never saved for it. Right? Because we spent the money that we thought we had, and then that deal didn't go through. So Profit First, in essence, is reverse engineering. Instead of saying all income is on one plate, we divide it up into 5 plates. One is your owner's pay, making sure you're paying yourself a fair wage, or at least a percentage something. There is the OpEx. There's profit. Right? Because every business, like we invest in the stock market, but yet we don't feel it's good to take a profit from our own business. And that's why I like Profit First, is it reverses it and makes sure it's profitable. And then we have tax account. and I missed one: taxes, OpEx, business owners pay, and profit. I think I got them all.
No,
So
we got owners pay,
yeah,
OpEx, profit,
owners.
tax. What's the fifth one?
What was it? I just went blank for somehow. So we have our payroll. That's an OpEx. That's 30%. Then we have taxes. Then we have 5% towards profit, and then 50% towards owner's pay. And then all of it comes through your income account, and then you distribute it into the different accounts.
Oh, so you actually have segregated bank accounts for these different liabilities.
Yeah. Yeah. So then you're not saying, oh, look, I can go on here and say, oh, I can go buy that house or whatever. We actually have real numbers that can tell us what it is. And Mike Michalowicz, the owner of Profit First, or writer, says the reason we do that and have different accounts is because then it's harder to cheat yourself. It's harder to say, oh, well, I can just take from here and not have to worry about it.
Right. I believe in that philosophy because I actually use it too. I'm allergic to having money in my account, so I have to get it out and put it somewhere else. Right.
Yeah.
Because if I see it there every day, I may make bad decisions. Right.
Yep.
So I get it out to investment accounts, and we probably have about 7 or 8 different bank accounts set up overall.
Yeah.
Just personally, that's not even getting into the businesses that we have. But so tell me, at what point in your entrepreneur journey and owning the coffee shop did you actually come across this revelation that you needed to profit first, right? And how did you find this profit first system?
Yeah, some was listening to a podcast. I've been listening to a podcast. We have a podcast we've had for over 5 years, and listening to a podcast and saying, "Oh, wait, we need it. That sounds really good. We're not making sure we're paying ourselves." And again, my business name was called Overflow. I was not taking care of us. We couldn't overflow to other people if we weren't taking care of us. There's only so much peanut butter and jelly and that kind of stuff that you can take, right? So, and then people will say, but you love it. You love what you do. That's why. And I'm like, yes, but I still like to, go out and do things. And so that was one thing where we wanted to make sure that we felt okay with paying ourselves and not just feeling guilty because everybody else was, and then being able to have are we running a lean, profitable business? Because I don't know about you, but a lot of business owners or people in general have shiny object syndrome, right? We like to buy things and then we forget that we bought the subscription for this thing that was going to help our business, right? Right. And you know this, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? People do this all the time. And then they have this going and they never kind of go back. And so then their OpEx continues to expand, or we get a lot of payroll because payroll is a big expense, right? And we overhire, or we say, oh, it's going to be good. And then we have all of it going to staff or whatever. And so I like to do it what he calls an expense challenge, where we'll go through, kind of look through and say, do I need this? Maybe that's saying we are living in not a poverty mindset, but where we shrink. But that's okay to be kind of in the balance of the Dave Ramsey world and the Robert Kiyosaki world kind of idea, where I want to kind of look and say, do I really need this? Is that just stupid? Do I need a jet for my business? Maybe you do. I don't know. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense, Brandon. It's obviously a conversation that comes up often. Both myself and Matt, and also with our clients, right? There's that ego that feeds the entrepreneur. So you want to pat yourself on the back and you want to reward yourself for working hard. But then there's that discipline it takes to mind your P's and Q's, right? And life is just a tightrope walk, balancing those two.
Yeah. I like to be able to say, well, what did the numbers say? Because I gave myself a huge pay raise because Profit First told me to. And I was like, oh, all right. I don't feel bad about doing that. Some people, they overspend on themselves and they're giving themselves huge pay raises when they need a haircut. Right. And other people are on the other end. I feel like I was more of a, I feel like, oh, I shouldn't pay myself. I don't, you know what I mean? But I'm like, no, we do. We're awesome.
So walk me through the process, right? So get the general understanding. There's 5 different accounts that you set up, everything from owner's compensation all the way down to a tax account, so you don't get hit with a huge tax bill at the end of the year. But how do you come up with these numbers and the percentages? What's the process? Do you sit down with a client, review all their financials, and then how do you come up with this analyzation?
Yeah. So what I kind of, again, my wife has built a whole like dashboard there. And we just do the percentages of how much is coming in, really, minus mats and subs. You subtract that kind of stuff to be able to see what the real revenue is. And then you have to then do an analysis of saying, how much are you actually spending? And then you might find out, oh, they have 60% towards owner's pay, or towards not owner's pay, but towards OPEX, right? And you might have to do what we call 1% adjustments. You might not go to the proper percentages that Mike lays out in the book for that size of a book of a business, right? But you might need to make little tweaks and say, okay, I'm saving nothing towards taxes. I need to cut my owner's pay a little bit and move it towards the tax account, right? Maybe 1%, 2%, 3%. But those little micro adjustments is what matters. But you have to have a full assessment and see if you're even profitable as a business. And I'll tell some smaller business, if they are never paying themselves, I'm like, is this a hobby or is it a business? Because if it's a hobby, treat it like a hobby and be okay with not getting paid and spending all your money, right?
Brandon, what does the profit first philosophy say about startups? Right, it's very difficult for the entrepreneur of a startup to make projections because you just don't know, right? And then you also have like these geographic variations. Like a coffee shop on Rodeo Drive is going to have different OPEX than a coffee shop on Main Street, USA. So kind of walk us through how you make those projections when you're starting out.
Yeah. So I had a client that is a business owner in the south side of Chicago, way south side. And he's running a hot dog place, right? And I tell him, man, once you open, right, you have to do first, it costs you a lot of debt to even get open, right? Just in the beginning. But once you get that first dollar, you need to divide the accounts, right? Make sure you're from the first dollar, right? Not from, oh, wait, let's take care of the debt first, but let's start building it from that dollar that's coming in once it's going. And then you have to figure out, how am I going to pay for the credit card debt that we accrued to get this open, right? Or whatever. And so then if you have your profit account and it is a profitable business, not all of it goes to you. 2.5% of that, maybe 5%, goes to pay off some of that debt. And you have to be real with your operation expense, that in order to get this going, that's an OPEX expense that you have to deal with. And the reality is most business owners are working for JP Morgan and other companies that they don't even realize. That's most people in general, right? We, as the processing fees and the credit cards and all of that PPP money, right? And so we have to be real. And that's why I like, again, the profit first system, is because it helps us not go into it as a Twitter pated and saying, oh yeah, it's good, but having real glasses to see if our business is good and shut it down. Maybe, just maybe, you need to shut it down. I feel like Gordon Ramsay here.
Hey, Brandon, I'm going to throw this out there, and I'm probably wrong, but the rigidity of this model would prevent any dreamer from opening up that grandiose restaurant in Times Square, or probably would prevent Walt Disney from opening up his first amusement park in Orlando. Shout out to you, Matt. So kind of walk us through how you balance that, right? Because sometimes the dreamer gets rewarded, but also we know that the dreamer falls on his face and goes bankrupt. So
yeah.
is there some flexibility in the profit first model for that aspirational business?
Yeah, I think that is a huge challenge. And again, it's a cash flow management system. And I think we need some I wouldn't have started the coffee shop had I came out, started that in 2011. And we were, again, idealistic entrepreneurs that said, oh, I'll just use a credit card to get it. And that it's going to work out. It's going to be easy. In 6 months, I'll pay it back. You need some naivety in that, but then you need some realism. And sometimes we just need to be a little crazy enough to step into it. But I've also learned that as you step into that, there's 3 things that I tell every business owner that they need to have. They need to have a team around them that cares about them, not just their thing that they're going to share to Shark Tank, right? But a team that cares around them, right? They have to have the team. They need to know that they know that they know that they're called to it, because that's what usually happens. Is these dreamers, they're dreaming, but they don't actually keep going. And they say, oh, that was great. And then they forgot that they wanted to continue that because it got hard. They have to know and go through the pain, and then know your numbers, know when to hold them, know when to fold them. Right. That's what Profit First does, is help say, all right, we need to keep doubling down, or we need to move.
So, Brandon, the one thing we've noticed about your businesses and your entrepreneurial zest is you've got a silent partner behind the scenes. Is it true that behind every successful man, there's a strong woman?
I think so. I mean, smarter.
How is it working with your wife, and not only working with your wife, but working with your wife in multiple manners?
Funny enough, I'm talking on a real estate investor group about working with your business partner. I don't think we would have done any of this if it weren't for both of us having the crazy ideas and the implementation. It has been hard. However, it's been worth it. What I've learned is knowing our strengths and our weaknesses. Kind of, again, going to the coffee shop thing. She was back of the house, right? Doing all the payroll, doing all the stuff. I remember a staff person asking me about being paid. I said, never ask me those questions because I'll make it up. And I did. Totally made up a whole thing. And he's like coming back to me a day later, and he's like, there's no 5th Friday. I was like, yeah, I don't know. This is why you don't ask me. You ask the back of the house. So we knew our zones. And then the other thing that I learned is we, as a business partner, we have regular date nights that we don't talk about work. We can't talk about client work, can't do that. And we needed to put that in place because it does get messy and everything bleeds through. And so that it's been a challenge, but we've learned how to put the rhythms in place to grow that.
And as if all this wasn't enough, then you take on authorship. So congratulations on your new book, 5 Smooth Stones. Tell us what this 5 Smooth Stones deals with, and also curiously, what's the genesis of that name?
Yeah, so the 5 Smooth Stones came from us being in business ownership and realizing, as I've talked with countless clients, countless people, that, man, a lot of people don't understand. They just let somebody else do it, their money manager or whatever, figure it out. And I'm like, no, we need to have a good understanding about our money. And the 5 Smooth Stones came from an idea of David and Goliath. David in the Old Testament used stones, 5 stones. God gave him these to beat Goliath. I have a feeling that we are having a lot of Goliaths, whether it's Amazon or Facebook or whatever, tons of Goliaths. And so our thinking came from, okay, there's these Goliaths out there. Finance and money is about this idea of confusion or chaos a lot of times. And so we've thought about these acronyms. It's confusing, haphazard, anxious, overwhelming, and stressful. That's chaos. This is post-COVID, people in their dreams, right? But what we need is a method to figure it out. And so we've implemented what we call the STILL method. This is us working with clients over and over again, saying, "What are your dreams?" "Oh, I want to have 20 houses." And then I have another client that says, "I want to sell all those 20 houses because they're a headache," right? So we have the method we call the STILL method within the book, which is the stones. Set your sights, right? You need to know where you want to go first and foremost. Most people don't. Track your in and out. That's the profit first. Inspect your progress. Look for 1% adjustments and live deliberately. Now, that can be money. That can be your relationship with your wife or kid. You can do the STILL method on everything. But most of the time, people haven't even thought about what they want in goals, right?
So you started out with the coffee shop. You moved on. Now
Yeah.
you're educating business owners on how to profit first, right?
Yeah.
But you're also
Yeah.
doing something else that's pretty interesting, right? You're teaching them how to be their own bank and how to bank
Yeah.
on themselves. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So banking yourself is a concept that Dave Ramsey loves to hate on. It is using properly designed life insurance policies that we can leverage and use now. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm not close to 60, right? You guys don't look like that either, right? But, right. Yeah. How old are you? As you go, you don't have to tell me.
I'm 49.
49. See, I figured, right? But we lock our money into things until we're 60. And then we say, "Oh, I don't have an emergency." This is, all of that stuff. So for me, my biggest risk in the coffee shop was me and my business. My biggest opportunity was us. I needed a place to store my savings that I could still have access to, and I wanted it to grow or do something, right? So I was able to use this policy properly designed to overcome a flood, buy my house, down payment on my house, and buy my office condo, which is really fun because it's, again, not just about the making of money, but it's the flow of money and being able to know what tools to use to deploy your money in the right ways. And I found that the banking yourself strategy, though it is not an investment, my biggest investment is me. How do I build a good foundation? Again, the 5 stones that helps build a solid foundation. So if a flood happens, or I can make a lot of money doing a deal, I can do both and then be able to grow those. So that's what infinite or banking yourself in essence is. People will say, yes, but what about this part of the policy and that? Doing a financial analysis is where I really build the plan. And it just happens to be one of my banks.
Right. So what do you mean by properly structured life insurance?
Yeah. So again, going to the Dave thing, he'll say, "Oh yeah, well, you never have any cash, right?" So yes, with traditional whole life, you will have no cash. It's all base, no paid up additions, which is a technical term for that. What you want to do is lower the base as much as you can within reason, because we get dividends off of that, right? So I want to think long range, as Nelson Nash, the founder of Infinite Banking, said, but also think short range of how can I deploy the cash right now, right? So we want to build a policy almost like a house. How do I build a solid foundation within that sub vehicle that I can use? But I don't want to make it too small of a foundation that it doesn't work as well, right? So I want to make sure that it's efficient for the client's needs.
So let's break that down a little bit because you lost me. So what do you mean by base and I guess foundation? So what do you mean? You're lowering your base. So explain it to me.
Yeah. So a good designed policy I use whole life insurance. I don't do IUL or those kind of things because that's too much risk that me as a business owner, I want to have the stability of it, right? That's the main part for me. So what a traditional or basic whole life, non-designed for this strategy is, let's say I put in $300 a month and I have $100,000 death benefit, no cash value at all, right?
Mhm.
That's the way most of them are built or was, right? And you'll say, well, eventually it'll equal because your cash value on a whole life will equal the death benefit by age 121, whether it's at certain level or not, right? At not 100, 121, somewhere in there. What we want to do is lower that base premium about 30, 40%, right? Put more into the paid up additions. We might have a term writer to be able to add more into it. And this is going real technical to be able to avoid taxes. This is there's a modified endowment contract rule that we have to deal with, because what happened is in the 80s is a lot of rich people were saying, how do I avoid taxes? Let's put it through these policies. And the government figured it out and said, oh, wait, they're avoiding taxes. We need to figure how to make sure we get our money. So that's where the MEC rule came into place. And we designed these with what's the ceiling, what's their minimum that we could do, and somewhere in the middle. So I have a policy that's 56,000, and I have a cost of insurance about 10 for that one. But that's a different kind of policy that I use for my tax strategy.
So are you actually lowering the death benefit and keeping the cash value higher inside the policy when you're doing that?
Am I lowering the death benefit? Yeah, actually. So my death benefit isn't the main priority in this. It will, every time the paid up additions, it is buying more insurance, which will buy more death benefit, which builds up and you get more dividends, right? So in this, we're moving into a high interest rate environment. Well, I'll get more dividends on my policy because we were in a low interest rate. So that's going to be fun to see as that grows. But it's again, not really thinking about death benefit. I want a good death benefit, but it's more about my cash accumulation. And over time, I'm going to have a bigger death benefit than a level whole life. And term for me is just like renting. I'm just renting the house versus owning the house. I'd rather be an owner than a renter.
So what can you do with the cash inside this policy that you can't do with typical life insurance policies?
Well, I mean, you can access and leverage it for anything. So I used it's again, the infinite banking idea. It's infinite. So I used my policy to do a down payment on my house and my office. I did a 50-50 split. The reason I did this is because I didn't want to use all of my policy cash value, because I still wanted to have an emergency fund, right? So I talked to a mortgage guy about this. And I said, this is what I'm going to do. He's like, that's genius. I'm like, how long you been doing mortgages? He's like, 25 years. I'm like, how do you not know what I do? You should have known this already. But I did a 50-50 split. I put $100,000 of my money from the policy cash value that I took a loan against the policy to take a mortgage, right? And then I borrowed the other money from the bank, right? So it's a business loan. So I also know that interest rates on business loans typically are higher than personal. I think because banks realize that, oh, you're going to make some money, so I'm going to charge you more, right? So I got a 3-year fixed on the bank side that will be a ARM variable in 3 years. So what's going to happen is I'm paying myself back with this policy. And I'll just buy out my mortgage if I need to, depending on what's happening in a couple years from now, right? And on top of that, because I own the policy, right? This is fun. I own my own policy. I used the policy to buy the business or buy the office condo, right? So I own that personally, not as the business, and then my business is paying me rent. So then my tax liability dropped by half because of depreciation. So then because of leveraging multiple assets, I was able to bring down that because, you guys are familiar with tax codes. The government wants us to be in real estate, right? Because that's how they make money usually, or try to, right? That's why they incentivize it. So you have to understand the tax code. That's kind of why I do an analysis too, is, well, what's the long-term implications?
Right. That's interesting. So you can actually use the bank on yourself model to actually invest in non-correlated assets outside the stock market, which is really awesome.
Or if you're good in the stock market. I mean, I'm just not going to tell you go do Tesla stock and you're I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you understand the business, use the equity to make money, but it's not a either or. It could be, but don't be a grandma saying I'm just going to take this and put it on black, right? Don't do that.
Right. So,
yeah.
Brandon, thanks so much for being here. We want to be respectful of your time. Can you tell everybody where they can find you and where they can actually find your book right now?
Yeah, so you can find me on all over the place. If you go to wealthwisdomfp.com, wealthwisdomfp.com, you'll find our website. If you go on there, there's wealthwisdomfp.com/shop. That's where the new book is at. It's on Kickstarter as of today, but it's going to be out in the world. I can't believe we have a book now. And then if you can find me on YouTube, every social media. If you can't find me on social media and you've looked up Wealth Wisdom FP or Wealth Wisdom Financial, reach out to me and tell me that you couldn't find me, and I'll probably tell you you don't know how to use the internet, but probably, or I made a mistake. And then if you want to talk to me, go to the website, schedule an intro call. I'd love to help people think differently about their finances and not just average, but how do we be above average in this world?
Brandon, thank you so much. Everybody, that's a wrap of the Liquid Lunch Project. We'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you for listening to the show, and make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. We'll see you on the next episode of the Liquid Lunch Project.